Welcome back to Good Moms Bad Choices. I'm Erica.
And I'm Mila.
And it's Wednesday, y'all. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, my love. It's hump day. And how are you feeling?
I'm doing good. I am relaxing. My house is clean. The weather's crisp. So yeah, feels very wintry in LA today, which is rare.
It is a bit chilly. The sun is out though. I mean, if LA people say it's wintry, it's a fucking lie. It's 69 degrees.
I know.
And we're playing fucking Winter Wonderland over here.
I know. And actually we have a guest that I'm really excited to introduce. And I was looking at her story and she's in fucking real winter over there. So
I was just going to say, I don't know when I'm allowed to start talking, but I'm about to get upset.
She had to curse us out.
It's crispy and wintry outside. I'm in fucking minus 15 right now.
I know. I'm sorry. This is disrespectful. Okay. You guys, we have Sarah Nicole Landry of the at the Birds Papaya of the Papaya podcast. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for saying quite articulated papaya so many times, because I still haven't been able to manage that.
The papaya pod, papaya. I'm like say papaya like 10 times fast. Papaya.
Yeah. Papaya podcast. Papaya.
It flows off the tongue. It flows off the tongue good.
When I was first starting the podcast, I jokingly called it the Papaya podcast because I could not think of a name for it. And so I was stuck and everyone just kept calling it the Papaya podcast. And then when I was like having to record stuff for it and say it in promos and all those like little blips that you have to do, I could not get papaya out multiple times. It was just so, I'm so impressed by you right now. Obviously I've learned, I've managed, I've gotten myself there, but it was a journey.
I feel you.
Every time I think of papaya, I think of like a natural skin like treatment.
What?
Yeah. Or
it is, you know what? It's good for brightening.
It's a peel. I know. I'm like, my esthetician is like, I need a peel. I need to do a peel. What made you, what is papaya, Birds of Papaya come from? What is this? What is the origin of your name?
So I started blogging back when I was a stay-at-home mom of 2 kids. And I did it because I was genuinely just lonely in the experience of motherhood. And, we were talking about this before we started, but like everyone used to have really like adorable names for their blogs. Everything was very cutesy, it was fingerprints on the fridge and tater tots and Jello. These are real blog names. And I think they still go by those now, but they all had very cute names. And so I was like, well, I want a cute name. And so I ended up naming it after my 2 daughters and their nicknames. So I had 2 little girls at the time and it was Gemma Birdie and Maya Papaya. So it just is what stuck. And what I don't think that people realize is like when you create a brand or you create a name, there's a lot of that like comes with you. And so even though everyone's kind of now defined by their first name, it's really hard to go back and change I can't find the handles for my actual name because I'm verified. I don't know if I'm even able to or allowed to change my name. I'm sure there's like a way to do it, but I have to buy the rights to my name from the person who currently has it. I have to go through this whole process. So part of me is like, you know what, whatever, it is what it is. And it's kind of cute. It's like the origins of the name or the origins of my story, which is essentially being really lonely in motherhood and being stuck at home with kids and wanting a way to connect with other people, I guess.
Did you always want kids? Because I think that's like people, we talk about this obviously a lot. I think most moms now are having a lot more conversations of being honest about the fact that like motherhood can be fucking lonely as fuck. Like it can be super isolating. And although it's this beautiful, joyous experience, like I think a lot of times people that even were dying for kids or really always wanted kids. I mean, for me, like I didn't always want kids. Like, were you like, how has the journey been in that space? Like, did you assume that you're going to have a kid and just feel like immediately fully fulfilled and happy and just tater tots and whatever the hell the other name podcast.
Tots and Jello. I got married at 19 to my first husband and I was pregnant at 20 and there was still like this little bit of a
baby.
I was a baby. But I didn't have like, I wasn't going to university or college. I didn't really have anything. Like I had like a job, but there wasn't a lot that was like pushing my world in a sense, right? And having a baby was like this really exciting notion. It was kind of like playing house in my head. When I look back on it, I was like, oh, that was like really cute and fun. And being pregnant, being the first one of my friends that was pregnant and, going through that experience. But I also have to say, like, I never liked babysitting. So I was terrified to have my own kids. I was very much like, how am I going to like these children at all? Because I don't like babysitting. I never did. I grew up, my mom did daycare for 25 years. So I grew up like in a setting of children. I liked being around them, but I didn't like the responsibility of taking care of them. And then financially could not afford childcare. I made less money than childcare costs. So that put me into the role of being a stay-at-home mom. And I know for a lot of people, that's like a really exciting journey to take. That's like their goal to do. It wasn't my goal, but I also didn't have any other goal. So I just did it. Right. And I look back on it with some fondness, but I also recognize that was probably one of the hardest seasons of my entire life because I just I don't think I was ready for it. I don't think that nothing really prepares you. And now I just had my fourth child in a new marriage and 10 years separation between my last child, my third child to my fourth. And now I have the opportunity to have childcare. I'm in a much different relationship. I've got teenagers that can help. It's an entirely different story. And I guess I really love having conversations like this because motherhood essentially is not a singular experience. And through conversations with other people, learning like how many people struggle with fertility to have a baby and then be feeling like feelings of stuckness and feelings that they don't feel like they can talk about. Like, are you allowed to say that you don't like being at home with your kid after you spent how much money and how many years trying to get there, or how much you dreamed about this and it just isn't doing it for you? I mean, I think we need to talk about it. I think it's a big conversation, but overall, I love being a working mom more than I did being a stay-at-home mom. And I don't feel sorry about that at all, but it's complicated being a working mom for sure.
Whew, is it? I mean, the guilt, the mom guilt that ensues, that is unavoidable. That we get
mom guilt is literally a hashtag. And where's the dad guilt hashtag? I just had this conversation.
Oh God, it doesn't exist. It's just
working dads. That's not even a term. I know. I even say that.
I saw this post that you did. It was like your last post on Instagram. It was this reel of like the questions that your husband never gets asked.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so interesting. It's so true because we've had this conversation too about like does dad guilt actually exist? And then men will be like, yeah, I feel bad sometimes. And I'm like,
I do have dad guilt.
I'm like,
single dads were the only ones that I was like, that's legit. Like, cause they were talking about, but I also think that people would automatically say it to a single man because they don't have a woman, because the second the woman's in that role, they assume everything is done by that woman. So even while the single dads were like popping up in the comments and validating their own experiences as they should, I also was like, it's still women perpetuating these questions. We're the ones who are doing it. I've never been asked about mom guilt or being a working mom by a man. It's always been women.
Right. I guess that's true. Yeah.
We recycle the patriarchy just as much.
I know it's true. I don't know. I mean, I think that men experience some level of guilt. I mean, honestly, I don't know because I'm a single mom. I haven't had a man in a while, unfortunately. But I think that it exists in some capacity, but it's just not the same because there's a different like rooting that happens when you're a mother and you give birth to a child. Like there's a connection, and I'm not disvaluing the connection that fathers have with their kids, but it's just different. And there's a level of like me and Mila went on a retreat and we were gone for 3 weeks from our kids. That's the longest I've ever been gone. And like, I know her father has been gone like way longer than that, working. And I was like, staring at her photos, like low-key, like crying in the bathroom and shit. That man is not crying in the motherfucking bathroom. Okay. No, it's not happening. It doesn't exist. No, it just doesn't. It doesn't.
And like it's such an uneven playing field. Like you said, like I can maybe single dads feel some level of dad guilt, but like single dads usually like everyone swoons over them like, oh my God, you're doing it all by yourself. I mean, and more so like I feel like my experience as a single mom is like, wow, that seems really hard. How are you doing that? Like, whereas men, it's like, oh my God, you're amazing. I can't believe that you're doing that. And for women, it's like, oh, what did you do to put yourself in this position?
My now husband, when we were dating, really wanted to be intentional about my kids. So he was like, if I'm going to date you, I need to date them. So he would take them out individually without me, right? And spend time with them. And the one time he took my one daughter, they went to go see Beauty and the Beast. It's just come out in theaters and they went out for dinner. And he was like, we got free desserts at dinner. They were so nice to us. And I was like, what the? And he's like, I don't even know why they did that. I'm like, I know why they did that. I know exactly why they did that. We swoon over a man doing like it's so funny. One person was saying to me that like whenever their husband's like doing the groceries with the kid, they're like, oh, look at you, like doing it all.
Doing stuff for your household like you're supposed to fucking do. Look at you contributing. What the fuck?
Oh my gosh.
No, go ahead.
I'm so interested in like your journey. I think like for us as single moms, you know, like it's so nice to see another mom who's, you know, been married, been single, found another fit, you know, a fit that fits better. And like, it's like a success story in the single mom crew. Like, oh my God, you got remarried. It worked. I'm always just like, so curious about like the journey because we grow, right? Like you have one baby, you grow, you have another baby, you grow, you have a marriage, a relationship, every relationship that we part from, essentially we grow from. And I love that. I love that your now husband took the time to like spend with your daughters and take them out individually. And I really love that because I think unfortunately, like our society also really like, I don't know how to say like I don't know, like looks down at single moms and how they date. I've found like even with my family, like if I date a guy, like you're not leaving her home alone with him, are you? I'm like, what the fuck do you think I am, dumb? Like I'm not gonna. First of all, obviously there's predators out there. Let's be clear, and sometimes they are fucking sheep and like wolves in sheep's clothing, you know? But I think that's like every single mom's biggest fear, and every mom in general is to protect their young. Like that is our mama bear instinct. But I think it's super healthy that you have, you know, a man that when you come in and date a woman that has kids, that you are making an effort to show that you actually give a fuck about the kids too, and the relationship that you have with those children. And obviously that happens over time and with comfort. But I really love that. Like that was his approach. Did he have kids? Does he also have kids? Oh, okay.
No, well, we have one together now, but when, you know, as a single mother, when you go into dating, first of all, I had no intentions of ever getting into another marriage. To me, I didn't succeed at marriage, and that wasn't something that I found super enjoyable for the most part, especially coming through divorce. It just felt like,
how long were you married? If you don't mind me asking.
I was together with him for 13 years and married for 11. So I got divorced at 30 and I got to move in with my parents. It was actually a really fun time. I moved in with my parents. Again, I'm trying to switch this narrative because we do kind of are like, oh, I used to tell the story and I'd be like, how humbling was it to like have to move into my parents? Yes, humbling, but also I got to wake up every day in my parents' house. You know how nice that is? Like it was some of the best memories I think we have. When I look back on the photos, I was like, oh, that was the best.
Well, you probably needed that nurturing too. I mean, especially if you have like a supportive family in that way, which it sounds like you do, like after being the wife and having to carry the children and do all these things to be able to go back to your parents' house and be taken care of a little bit, maybe probably those kids being taken care of a little bit more than maybe hubby does. Cause we all know like they like look at us like handle it. This is your role.
Yeah. And I was a stay-at-home mom. So I went from being a stay-at-home mom to working 2 jobs. Within 2 weeks of getting divorced, that was my life.
Damn, you weren't fucking around.
No, I had no choice. I was working as a server at nighttime, working around my ex-husband's schedule before. So as soon as we split, I was like, I can't financially sustain on this one job that I'm working. So I came into having a second job, which really heavily relied on my mom to be able to help with the kids and stuff as well. But I agree with you. There is sort of this sentiment around single mothers that immediately brings on feelings of hardship, needing to help them, needing this. And this is, I actually just wrote about this not long ago, because single motherhood, oftentimes when we refer to it in the past, it's referred to as something that we get out of or that we like got through. And it's not to say that those aren't valid feelings, but I also don't think I've ever had another time in my life that I felt stronger, more capable, and willing to like do, like, I don't know, like there was so much more to that time. And it's funny because we kind of refer to it as being these things that we got out of it because it seems so scary and uncertain and vulnerable. But the truth was, so was dating, so was marriage, so was divorce. So it has been so many different jobs that I've had. And so much a part of life is scary and uncertain. So when it comes to the single momhood of things, if I'm looking reflectively, that's the one time in my life I thought, nothing can stand against me, because I came into this season of life with not $1 to my name and I got through it. Yes, with the support of others, but why can't we have support of others? That doesn't make me weak. That doesn't make me anything. That makes me strong to be able to still like persevere and like push for things. There was discomfort in the fact of trying to steady myself emotionally with loneliness. I had a friend once who was dating a lot, and she realized that she was just dating, but had never been alone, like never truly just let herself be comfortable alone. And I found myself trying to get really distracted. I was going out on the nights I didn't have the kids. And on the nights that I was home by myself, those were some of the hardest nights. And I realized I really had to work on that. I really had to figure out who the fuck I was. What did I like to do when I was by myself? And what were those choices that I was going to make? And that, now that I look back on it, I'm like, I was dating myself. I was romancing myself, and nobody, I've talked about this before too, so I apologize if this is repeats for anybody, but we don't friggin' have ceremonies for that. We don't have engagements to that. We don't take pictures for that. We don't celebrate the relationship with ourselves. And that's the one thing that's going to stand the test of time. Our kids will eventually grow up and away from our homes. Like we will lose our parents at a certain phase of life. There's variables in all of our relationships. They are so unsteady, and you've got one shot at one life and one relationship with yourself. That's the only one that's guaranteed. And I think we have to pay more attention to that. And so single motherhood gave me that. And then, so coming into dating, of course, was not something I expected to do. And when it comes to meeting somebody, you have basically three choices: somebody who doesn't want kids, somebody who has their own kids, or somebody who might potentially want their own. And I didn't know how to date and kind of come into that when I'm like, I have 3 kids, like I'm good. I don't really want to have more. And so when I met my husband, he was very much like, I don't have this internal gut feeling of having my own kids, but I love kids. I love being around them. And I think that made him somewhat exceptional to me. And to the point of him dating my kids, there's something that I don't often hear talked about. And that's that when you're dating somebody and it's a secondary relationship from the one that you've had with their father, even in a lot of cases, if you split and you share custody in any regard, that person is still in your kid's life. They're still there. But when you break up in a secondary relationship, that person isn't. And so that burden on me is that it started to build up in my relationship with my now husband was, if this doesn't work out, I have to rip him away from them. And I don't know how to hurt them with this. And so it made it very hard to move through the relationship confidently, or feeling like I could constantly push for my needs with things when I had this cloud over my head a little bit. And so there was one day where he kind of pulled me aside and he said, listen, I want you to know I love you, but I want you to know I've fallen in love with your kids too. So if anything ever happens, if you're okay with it, I'd like to still be in their lives afterwards. And that just took every little bit of weight off of my chest, and that I'm gonna cry right now thinking about it, because I didn't realize how much it was a burden to me, that I felt like I had to make this new relationship work or I was going to hurt my children. So knowing that I could move through the relationship, good or bad, and being in it or not, and that he was still willing to pursue them and be there for them afterwards in a supportive role, meant everything to me. It meant that it was no longer hinged on how I felt and how I was doing, but also he was just wanting to be in their life because he had fallen in love with them too. He didn't just date me, he dated all of us.
That is so incredibly beautiful. I could cry also. I think we talk about this recently a lot, and just in general, how we all really just long for safety. And you know, and like this security, and like a lot of times men don't understand, like if you offer a woman safety in certain ways, like we're going to be loyal forever, you know. And I've also experienced that dating people, my kid getting attached, and then they literally disappear after I've had this conversation. And so absolutely is a fear. Absolutely there is a, you know, a responsibility to your kids, that you're not like furthering their trauma with attachment issues with men that you've dated. I mean, like I could like, okay. Also, speaking back to what you said initially, I'm reading this book right now called Women Who Run with Wolves. And I'm probably going to reference this book like 400 million times.
Writing that down.
Please write it down. It's fucking amazing. It's like, honestly, I feel like it's the Bible no one ever gave me. And yesterday I was reading this portion of the book, and it's a book of tales, but the tales are then dissected in a way that kind of frames the wild woman, and how we've been, how we're under attack, and how we've been, you know, attempted to be domesticated. And there's a story about a little girl who, it's kind of like a Cinderella story. Her mom dies. She has a stepmom and like two evil stepsisters. Anyway, she goes out into the woods. Anyway, the whole story talks about we have an overbearing mother psyche. And it's our need as women to feel safe. But how if we stay too close to that overbearing mother, or if we overbear as mothers, you kind of take away your take away the option to step out on faith. And oftentimes the things that we step out on faith into, like the woods, those are the things that sharpen our intuition. Obviously there's always like the comfort of staying close to something, staying in a marriage, staying in a relationship, doing the thing that's safe because we want to be taken care of. But it's actually in on the journey into the woods, into the darkness, that you sharpen your intuition and you learn really who you are, and like how powerful your intuition is. And it just like, it really made me think about, when you said that, it made me think about how, you know, when a lot of times when women do transition into this space of being single moms, it's more like, oh no, you know, like instead of like the celebration of, oh, that didn't work for you, and you recognized it and you walked away from what was not comfortable for you, and you decided to rip the Band-Aid off and do it anyway. Those are the things that sharpen your intuition and make you confident in who you are, and like even dating the next time. And same, when I first got single, like I wanted to feel bad for myself, but you know, it was the little things that made me feel strong, like taking out the trash alone, like walking my dog and carrying my baby. I was like, I can do this shit, you know?
Well, I think when you are like open to that, like, and those kind of things, like you said, you didn't even realize you were dating yourself. Like those things, like intuitively as women, when we really do start to like notice our power, step into our like, oh, okay, I can handle this. Oh, I got this. So you like really start to just move towards that space. The actions come, like the messages come, the things that you're supposed to do in order to empower yourself naturally come. And then of course, hopefully you have sisterhood, hopefully you have tribe that are going to kind of reinforce that in you and give you examples. And honestly, like, hopefully, thank God for podcasts, because there's so many, you listen to podcasts and you realize like, oh my God, people are having these conversations. Like what?
Yeah.
And
we're having it in a way that feels safe, right? Like, is that not also what it is for podcasts? Is it's a space that you can speak and people won't immediately respond, and that somehow feels safe too.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I do think that there is it's so scary becoming a single mother. It's truly like, it's really terrifying, especially if like, that's not what you like, if, especially like if you had this idea that you were going to have like, you're going to play house, you're going to have this perfect
face it, every 99.9% of moms, I mean, maybe 98, thought we were going to play house and it was going to live happily ever fucking after, like a fucking Disney movie.
And I can only imagine, like, you have 3 kids with your first husband?
Yeah, I've got 2 girls and a boy, and now I have a 4th little girl.
But like having 3 kids, you're with one person, you're in a rhythm, like you're in a flow.
You are.
Like not necessarily, maybe it's not a flow. Like maybe it isn't a flow, and that's the problem.
It's the only flow that you know.
But the only flow that you know, like, I mean, for us, me and Mila, like we had one child with our child's father, and like we dipped, right? But like 3, that's a real investment in your time, in your energy, in your connection with another person, creating life. Like I would imagine that kind of walking away from that, like that's some brave shit.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's 2 parts to this. One, I said that I wanted a divorce 3 years before I actually did it, because there is a grieving process to every stage of that. And I think a lot of people dance with the idea of leaving a situation or changing a situation. But you have to remember, when you've idealized and you've created a lot of narratives around this cookie cutter, it is very hard to take that. If you think of like what a cookie cutter looks like, and we talk about families as being a cookie cutter, and we ultimately, yes, the Disney dream, we want this cookie cutter reality. To take that cookie cutter and to realize that it can be reshaped and that you can change the shape that it looks like is a very powerful fucking moment for you. But I will say that I thought that my marriage would end in an explosion. I always thought, and I never talk about like why we split up. That's like out of my respect for my kids, especially because it's not just my story. It's like all of us. But when you think about leaving something, I think a lot of us go through this cycle. There's so many cycles when it comes to emotions and stuff, but typically a breakup in any sense usually happens at the height of that cycle. There's some sort of an explosion. And I had gone through so many cycles where it was like, okay, it's not good. I'm ready to go. I need to get out of this. And kept having these conversations about it, and then coming back in over and over and over again. So when I actually did leave, it was on a very, very calm Wednesday. It was on a Wednesday that was uneventful Wednesday. And there was something really uniquely powerful about that, because, I've written about this before as well, but just when people go through breakups, it's kind of like a car crash for everybody around you, and everybody wants to rubberneck and figure out what happened. Why did this happen? And who's at fault here? And the reality is nobody was in the fucking car with you. Nobody was in the fucking car with you. And it's okay if you just stopped the car from driving. Like, it's okay if it's not an actual crash. People will still ask the question over and over and over. Why? Why did this end? And it's just, somebody immediately called me as soon as it happened. They said, keep your circle tight and keep it closed. And you do not owe people an answer to why. And at the time she said that, I was such a people pleaser. To think of the idea of not answering people didn't make sense to me, but I trusted her. She was like a mentor to me. And I was like, okay, we're going to keep this tight. We're going to keep it small. And over the years, I allowed myself to be spoken of, be spoken down about, have stories about me out there. And I just let them play out because it wasn't my story. And if I knew my story, I could hold my head high no matter what could be said about me, no matter who made assumptions about that car crash and why that car stopped driving. It didn't matter, because at the end of the day, people would eventually stop talking about it. I knew that to be true, because if you've ever watched somebody go through a divorce or a breakup of any type, everyone talks about it in the moment it happens, but guess what? They keep driving down the highway. They keep going, and they're not rubbernecking forever. So I kept having it in my head, if I just keep going, people will stop talking about this eventually, and I'll just get to keep going. And so that's kind of what I did. And I think it was the best decision for me. And overall, my truth kind of remained my truth, and I didn't have to get messy about it either.
I think that's really true. I think that I love that advice of like keeping your circle tight and keeping it tight, especially as a people pleaser. I think that's a really great tip, because I think for women too, like we have this nature to kind of like, not nature, that's not the right word. We have this, I guess, people expect us to kind of like want to talk shit all day about our like whatever's gone on, you know, and like, and I think just humanly, like we want to place blame on someone, like this is this person's fault or that person's fault. And whether or not it is, you know, that's neither here nor there. But I love the reference of like talking about like, what if you just stop the car? What if you just get out?
Yeah.
You know, like what if you don't have to have the whole crash?
Well, like, I think that's the problem a lot with women and marriage and relationships is that people, you know, we think about mindfulness, you know, because this month's theme has been mindfulness, and think about mindfulness. We think about this peaceful thing and all these things, but mindfulness is really just like the idea that you are honoring yourself, right? And like, I think in a lot of relationships, we assume that there has to be some big crash and burn for us to walk away. But in fact, like we're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving. And like you said, like you knew like 3 years before, same. I knew 3 years. I knew a long time before, you know, I walked away that I probably needed to walk away, but I exhausted every fucking possibility because I listened to other people. And not only that, I listened to what this cookie cutter standard was and what would, you know, what looked good and what it was supposed to be like. And the truth was I was just growing at a much faster pace than my partner at the time. And the relationship wasn't really helping me grow. And sometimes that's enough. Yeah. If we only, like you said, we only have one life in this lifetime, in this realm, this time, and your growth is like being mindful of your growth and where you're at and the environment that you keep, even when you love someone. I read something recently. It was just like, everyone you love doesn't deserve you. And that hurts. It hurt for me to read it. It hurts for me to repeat it. Like I've loved people that I didn't need to keep. And that is a very hard pill to swallow. You know, there's a lot of people that you love and you have to let go. In fact, it's your journey and your life's lesson to let go. And like, even when you talked about the fear of our kids being attached to men when we no longer are, I've found it kind of sad, but also kind of a blessing to be able to have that conversation with my 7-year-old. She said, Nana said you break up with everybody. I was like, well, Nana needs to get out of my business. Also, everyone's not here forever. It's okay to leave people. It's okay to grow out of people. And that is okay. And that is a lesson I didn't get growing up. And as an adult, I have a hard time letting go of people. I have
chapters, right? I have to make them chapters in my head. That's how I have to make them, or it doesn't make sense for me.
Cause like, I'm like, why did you leave me? Why did this end? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I felt like we were in a good place. You know, I felt like we communicated. I loved you. And like, sometimes, a lot of times just loving someone isn't enough. And honestly, it's the mindfulness that you can love someone, but they don't belong in the rest of your book. And you're ultimately the author. But sometimes we are so clinging to the love, the fairy tale.
This idea. These future chapters you wrote before they played out.
This is why I was so, you know, when everyone was so pumped about the new Adele album, I'm like, yeah, I love Adele. Like, she's great. But I swear to God, when when they released the first song, it was Easy on Me. And the first line she sang with about, there ain't no gold in this river I've been washing my hands in forever. I know there is hope in these waters, but I can't bring myself to swim when I'm drowning in this silence. The entire story that she began to tell about divorce wasn't one that was a crash and burn. It was one that I don't think I want to do this anymore. And I need everybody to just hold so much empathy and compassion for me. And when I reflected upon like my own divorce and everything, I think the one thing that really resonated with me is like, it almost to me was like a burning house. It was a burning house. And I was just putting out the fire with buckets and buckets and buckets of water. And so eventually you realize the flames are too big. We got to get out, and we all have to get out. Not just like me, not just the kids, not just my ex. We all have to get out of this house. And you get out of the house and everyone's like, well, how did this happen? Like, again, with the car crash kind of mentality. nobody saw you fucking carrying the buckets. Nobody saw you trying to put out those fires for so long. And we need to praise the people for getting out. We need to praise people for and honor them and be like, how can we help you rebuild? Like, how can we be a part of your rebuild, your personal time in rebuilding? I think that divorce is, it's so hard to talk about because people are really defensive about it, and because divorce rates are so high. But divorce rates are higher not because we're failing at marriage, but because we're becoming more self-aware,
more mindful,
right?
And
like we're becoming more financially independent too, and we need to recognize that financial independence and fair wages for women especially, and more support around women especially, creates more safety for women. It is truly empowering. And it is lovely to think that in a world of marriages, and I'm somebody who got divorced and somehow got married again, I still believe in it, but it's like having a bad job and then getting a different job. Like they're not all the same. When we talk about marriage, they are not equal. They are never going to be equal. So we need to start looking at them as like individual things, just as individual as everybody is. But when somebody gets married or gets divorced, we need to kind of look at it as just what it is, not necessarily like a statistic or like a pass or fail. Ultimately, my marriage, as much as I felt like a failure in it, has to be a part of my success story because it taught me so much. It gave me these children. It made me who I am today. As unfortunate as some of those parts are, and as hard as some of those parts are, I would not be in the position I am today if it were not for that. So I think that more people need to be celebrated for standing up and acknowledged for, how difficult it is, but also like how empowering and amazing it is that we now live in a time where people can step away from relationships and still be okay.
Particularly women, because
yes.
Women are really the ones who feel the guilt about the fail. Like I feel like more so hold up this narrative and feel guilt and shame when the shit doesn't work out.
Yeah, it's like the mom guilt, and like no one talks about the divorce guilt, the relationship guilt, like the guilt that women feel like we really carry the burden of this.
Like you didn't try hard enough.
Like you have to show proof that you have all these buckets behind you.
What are you really use?
Like I really use these buckets. Like guys, you weren't there, but I swear to God, I used them. Like they need the proof.
I'm not supposed to suffer while it's not okay for me to suffer while we figure it out. It's not normal to suffer because I'm attempting to uphold this standard. Like it's not okay. It's not normal. It's not healthy. And in fact, if you're listening and you're in this position and you're feeling these ways and you felt this way, and like I think because we're like good moms, bad choices, I think people assume that we're like man bashing, marriage hating single moms. But like Erica and I both love and love marriage and want to be married and like have all these, aspirations, but we're clear about who we are and that, our purpose. And like, if it doesn't align, then we're cool with it not being forever, and I think that's the thing women are not really empowered to do. And so I get messages like this all the time. Someone messaged me yesterday, how did you stop having sex with your baby daddy? And I was like, bitch, it was really hard. But I realized as soon as I walked away from things that didn't serve me, blessings on blessings bestowed upon me because I was strong enough to see through to the other side and honoring myself and knowing like that feeling in my gut that this probably isn't healthy for me is instinctually, I know me best. And even if it's not easy and nobody else gets it, I knew that I had to walk away. And as soon as I did, in the relationship, sexually, all the extra shit, it like God, the universe, spirit was like, told you, bitch, this is what needed to happen for you to get to this next level. And it's no, slight to my baby daddy or to that relationship. Because like you said, it grew me. Like I would never be here doing this if I didn't have the strength and the testimony to be like, I had to walk away to become this version of myself. And
if you're in something that isn't meant to be, ultimately, if you're somebody who maybe believes in some forms of destiny, which I think I do, it's not that it's not going to move forward, but it's like a train off its tracks. So it's going to be really hard to push it forward. When things get into alignment and the train gets on the track, you become shocked at how quickly that train moves and how easily it glides. That was my biggest shock, walking away after I said, like, it took me 3 years to walk away. I cannot tell you the amount of things that just click, 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 click. As soon as I drew that boundary, I could go into it, but I mean, I, within 2 weeks, landed my dream job. I met my husband, did not plan to date him, but literally saw this man and had this overwhelming feeling of, he's important. That was all that came. I've never had like a voice. I've never, you know, when people are always like, oh, I heard God, or like I heard never fucking, like, I was like, how do you do? I can't even meditate. Like, I don't know how to do it. And so when I saw this man, and all I felt inside, like, had not even spoken to him, was like, he's important. Like, ping, just what the fuck was that? And had no idea what was coming for me. How did that all work out way too quickly? There was part of me that like wanted to be resentful. Like, that went a little too easily. Like, why is this actually going well? Which causes a lot of internal discomfort, I'm going to call it, when you feel like you don't deserve it, and that the other shoe is going to drop at some point. But I've really had to look back and be like, no, that's what it feels like when you're not living in the storyline that you're supposed to be in, and you go into the one that you are, or when you resist that change. I think a lot of times, or there is a chapter that like the page just needs to turn and you're holding a bookmark, like you've got a bookmark there and you just need to take it out. And you can tell I love analogies. But yeah, like it definitely, to your point, like it's just, it can be so hard to let go of that stuff. But as soon as you do, it is truly shocking what can come to be. But that's a really hard story to tell before you've made the change, because
it feels out of reach and out of touch for sure. But like, it's so true. I mean, I think that's, you know, we talk a lot about the power of manifestation, and like, sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. And sometimes like you won't be able to invite in the things that you want into your life until you make space, until you clear out space. And clearing out that space is often extremely uncomfortable. In fact, if it's comfortable, it's probably not going to work. Like you got to get used to being uncomfortable in order to invite what's meant for you, the comfortability that you're looking for, the stability that you're looking for. Stability doesn't come from comfort.
The clarity to hear that voice. You know, I always see people on the internet like saying, oh, then I just knew. Oh, and it just came to me. And I was like, bitch, what the fuck just came to you? Because it's not just coming to me, and it would irritate me. And now I'm in the space that I'm like, really, once you really cross over that bridge, the clarity, the voices, the alignment is actually truly that clear. And
it is. And I remember us, me and Mila had really had this conversation. Like me and Mila just did a retreat in Costa Rica. And we were having this conversation about like, you know, when like celebrities go on stage and they thank everyone. And then they are like, you know, this is for everyone, you know, believe in your dreams. Like
you can do whatever you want.
You can do anything you want. It's like Beyonce. You're like, you're fucking Beyonce. Like, of course.
I was just going to say that when you said manifestation, because I'm like, every time somebody talks about manifestation, they are like, you just got to get up and you got to like, just get out there and do the thing. And I was like, with what money? Like with what? You've got the money to do it. So that always frustrated me in a position of like, I literally didn't have my name on a bank card yet. I was 30 and had nothing. I didn't have a car to drive. I didn't have a job more than like my serving at time. So when people talked about like just manifested, I was like, fuck you. Like that must be so nice. So I love that we're talking about manifesting in a way that's a gritty, like really, truly, it's going to be hard, but it's going to get good. Like you kind of have to tear down before you rebuild. Right. And like, that doesn't mean that it's easy. It's not the manifestation of just like buying a new house.
It's not the one you want to, it's not the one you want to hear. Okay.
No,
like the manifestation that you want to, like the ones that sounds cute is the one where you wrote some shit down, lit a candle, and the next day it came true. Sorry, bitch. It doesn't work like that. There actually has to be action, and it has to get uncomfortable, and it probably is going to get a little ugly too before the manifestation cultivates. And even going back back to like these, like a celebrity on stage talking about like, or whoever, someone successful saying like, just keep going at it. And like, your dreams are possible. I would be like in this space where I didn't know what my purpose was. And I would see like, I would watch the Grammys or whatever it was. And these people were talking and I'm like, what the fuck like, I don't, what? And now I'm in alignment. I'm in the space of like, I feel I'm walking in my purpose. Things are flowing to me so fucking easily. And I'm like, oh, that's what they're talking about.
That's what it is.
True. This is my version of it. I'm not Beyonce up on stage at the Grammys, but like, but maybe not Grammys, maybe like Oscars or Emmys or something like that. But yeah, I'm like, no, it really is. There's a reason why those people are going on stage and saying that shit, because it's fucking true. But it does take sacrifice. It does take uncomfortability. It does take leaving your husband with 3 kids and saying, fuck it, I'm getting out. I don't feel good here.
Going to my mom's house.
I'm going home.
Going to mom's house.
I'm going back to the nest. I'm going to redo a restart. Like it is in that it births from that.
And I feel like once you get past those really hard humps and you start to walk in your alignment and you start to listen to your intuition and sharpen your intuition for going on that journey through the woods, I think that first hump is the hardest. But now, like, I feel so much in alignment that even when things do come up, even when obstacles come up, because like breaking up with my baby daddy and leaving wasn't like, shit happened after that. Like everything wasn't perfect, you know? Things are not perfect right now, but I have a very clear understanding that what's for me is for me. And that as long as I'm walking in my purpose and honoring myself and being mindful, that everything will always fall in alignment. And I would never have understood that lesson as much as I do now had I not taken that first leap of faith. I am so aware that even when shit is fucked up or hard, I'm like, spirit will always have my back because I'm listening to myself. Like it's me. I'm not listening to any outside voices. I'm not listening to what my friend thinks. I'm listening to what my mom thinks. I'm not listening to what I thought my expectation was, but I'm in flow and in mindfulness of myself. And and even when it's like, you know, starting that podcast and talking about sex with that girl you met at the birthday party, probably is not a great idea, and then I say, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. And 4 years later, I'm writing a book with my best friend and I'm leading women at a retreat. This is like that. Nobody told me that this was a good idea. But here we are because I listened to myself. And I think that is the biggest lesson when you do rip that first Band-Aid off, is that honestly, everybody's journey is different and nobody can tell you where your journey goes but you. And it's in listening to that inner voice that your blessings will always come and always have your back.
Amen.
Oh my gosh, that was a speech. And honestly, like right after Erica, you said that like it's like a birth, like things that birth from that. And it's like that just immediately made me pause. And I was like, why are we not? Birth is like the perfect thing to reflect on, because anybody who knows labor or delivery of any sort, you know that birth is not
pretty.
It's not pretty. It's not easy. It's not simple. It's messy afterwards. Like
it's shocking.
It hurts. It's shocking. There's a lot to it. I think if we look at that and we're like, how powerful, how amazing. And yet every other birth in our lives, we're not looking at it the same way. We're looking at it for the mess and we're not looking at it for the beauty. That's like, when you said that, I was just like, and then you just went off on this fucking speech and oh my God,
I know.
I'm gonna need to recover from this. I'm gonna be sitting on, I'm going to be listening back to this podcast essentially and saving notes. My gosh.
You know what? We forgot to do an affirmation. I feel like this is a really good time to come back to what the affirmation is for this episode or for today.
Okay. Am I saying one or are you saying
one? Yeah. No, I don't have one. It's on you, girl.
Okay. This is, speak about fucking things in alignment. So I told you I have this jar. It's the friendship jar that I have with my best friend Bailey, and I made it. And so we came out with this friendship jar and it has like 60 different notes in it. And then you can pull whatever one you want that day. And today's that I pulled before this episode even began was, do what you love, not what other people want you to love.
Damn.
That's like, just so I'm not like a liar here, that literally is
that's
like the fucking theme of this episode. And then also what came out.
I mean, hence what we talked about, the fucking alignment. Like, and this is something that happens in Erica. And like, I think when me and Erica started doing this, and like, I know we talk about manifesting and it's such a like hot topic word, but like the little signs that the universe will give you on your way are always like a pat on the back. And it's like, if you're willing to see the beauty and the alignment and everything, as small as the affirmation that you pull out on this episode after the conversation, before the conversation that we had, and like knowing that that is the universe's way of saying you are on the right path, my friend, and actually you're doing the right thing. It's the small shit, you have to pay attention to the small affirmations from spirit, because they'll come all the time. Now I'm really excited to read the tarot card of the day, because now I'm like, what does it say? Is it for us? Of course it is. I picked the Queen of Cups. It's a woman sitting on her throne with coins and water around her. And usually the cups is a symbol for emotion. It's a lot about your emotional stability. But this bitch looks rich. So I'm really looking forward to what she's about to talk about. The Queen of Cups is a beautiful, introspective woman who sits on a throne at the edge of the sea. In her hands, she holds a golden cup adorned with handles shaped like angels. Unlike most of the cups in the Suit of Cups cards, this cup is closed, showing that the Queen's thoughts and feelings come from her subconscious mind and the depths of her soul. The Queen of Cups is nurturing, caring, compassionate, and sensitive. When you see her in a tarot reading, you're embodying her nurturing mother energy. You support others by listening with your heart or yourself, being compassionate and caring for them deeply. You are empathetic and can sense the needs of others by tuning into your intuition, and you hold the space for others to express their emotions and be in the truest, most authentic versions of themselves. You have mastered this in such a way that even though you hold space for emotional expression, you don't take on other people's energy or emotional issues, because you are well-grounded and know where to create healthy separation. The Queen of Cups says you are highly intuitive, creative, and in flow with the surrounding energies. In your interactions with others, you can easily read other people to get a sense of how to communicate effectively. You may be a healer, counselor, or intuitive coach, or maybe just a good friend. You recognize the divine energy in everyone you meet. Your creative projects and endeavors, you feel your way into them, trusting your heart and your inner guidance to lead you in the right direction. And
oh wow!
So and there it is again with the alignment and the birth.
Shit.
Yeah.
I recently read something on Instagram. Someone posted a meme or something that really spoke to me, and it was, my biggest flex is keeping my heart soft and my boundaries strong. And I thought, like, wow, that's so true. And that's something to aspire to, right? Is like to be able to have your boundaries, but keep your heart soft and be open to people, being able to help and serve, but not like taking on their shit, not taking on their shit, and staying focused on whatever is meant for you. Because ultimately, if you just are in flow with that, we are fucking unstoppable. Women, we are so unstoppable. And I'm so happy to be alive in this time where things are shifting and women are finally coming together. And it's not cool to be a bitch, like it's not cool to hate on another woman.
Yes.
Like if you are hating on another woman, like you're out of here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just love conversations like this. Thank you so much for coming on today, Sarah. I really appreciate it. You dropped so many gems.
Wait, you didn't ask my Hori.
Do you want us to?
Please share your
Hori. Share a Hori, please.
Guys, I don't have any horror stories, but this is the closest one to my horror story.
Okay, do tell.
As I mentioned, I got married at 19. I was a good Christian girl. So there's nothing that happened before that. And so when I got divorced, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm stepping into my whore years. And I was so stoked. Like I genuinely was excited. I thought it was going to be the most exciting time of my life. So when I met my now husband, I was a little disappointed because I was like, well, this isn't
going to cut my whoring short.
This is going to cut it real short. But we have a very, he let me get it out in different ways because when I was obviously living with my parents and, you know, everything, there was no bringing him home. So one day after work, this is like the most vanilla horror story, but this is the most mint chocolate chip there is for
whatever.
Me. So we ended up going to like a nearby rock at a children's park late at night.
A rock?
To have sex. Yeah, a rock. Genuinely a rock. The best part about this story is that later when we got engaged, he engraved my ring with, I can't actually show it. There's like little tiny engravements right here, and it has a location. It's a Google location. So he said, I want you to, after he proposed to me, he's like, I want you to go and check out what the encryption is. And it was the fucking location of the fucking rock.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
So he made it. And then he
where you got
me, yeah, it's where we fucked on a rock.
You consecrated your love on that fucking rock. Okay.
In the playground.
So my horror story is like, that's the most horror thing I've ever done. And it's engraved inside my ring. And then when my dad was like checking out the ring, he's like, oh, what is that location for? And Shane's like, yeah, Sarah, can you tell your dad what that location is for? And I was like, I hate you. I'm never talking to you again. Yeah. So that's the most of my story, but it's one of my favorites that my ring forevermore will be engraved with the one spot I had spontaneous sex.
I really like your husband. I don't know this man.
I do too. I do too. But
I like him a lot.
Fucking adorable.
I love that he encouraged you to get your horsing out, even if it was with him, even at the park on the rock. And I hope that you continue to make horries with your husband and throughout your marriage, because
that's just it, right? Like you can have it in different ways. I think I was always jealous because I didn't have like the university experience, or like as I grew up, I was like, oh, I don't have all these like cool stories. But now I'm like in a situation where we can create our own cool stories, and I love that too.
Yeah, that's the best way.
I think you need to consecrate somewhere else and put those. Buy your husband.
I need a new ring, honey.
Buy your amazing husband a piece of jewelry, and you put that location in there so that you can just keep trading back and forth, and all your fuck spots will have jewelry pieces.
Next time you're like going for pizza or like on date night or something, and like a medium to not very fancy restaurant, just be like, meet me in the bath. Like maybe text him, meet me in the bathroom while you're in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you though, like having sex on that rock, as funny as it was of a story for us afterwards, was the most uncomfortable situation I've ever been in my life. It was so cold. The rock was hard. And like somebody pulled up at one point and we were like I was so uncomfortable the whole time. I was just, it was not a sexually enjoyable experience for me. I just like, it was exciting, I guess. But the whole process, I was just like, oh my God, somebody's going to see us. Oh my God, this is illegal. Oh my God, this is this.
That's the point. That's the point.
It stressed me out.
Next time, just bend over doggy style. Just use the rock as the anchor.
That's what I did, but the cars going by was still stressful. And then like recently it was brought up that I've never like worn lingerie for him, because I guess I just usually strip. And so I like bought lingerie, but I've never done this before. I don't know how this works. I've been married to this man for like 3 years. So we go away. First of all, my pregnancy was really complicated. We weren't allowed to have sex. And then it was like postpartum. So this is our first night away after the baby, and we go away, and I processed the fact that I bought this lingerie. It's very cute, but I was thrown that I forgot a piece of it. And I got like really in my head about the whole thing. And then I realized nobody talks about how you actually come out in lingerie. Like, what is that process? I'm so in my head. I also had just had an edible, which didn't help the situation. I was very in my head about the whole thing. No. So now I'm coming around the corner and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Am I supposed to dance? Like the movies, everybody dances. So I just was like, I'm in lingerie. And then I just came around the corner and I just curled up in a ball, and he was like, that's lingerie? And that's the end of the story. And I was like, I don't know. I need to text my friends. And so then I texted my girlfriends and I was like, guys, I don't know what to do. I just came out in the laundry. It was like really uncomfortable. My friend was like, yeah, nobody talks about that. It can be really awkward at times. And she was like, I'm pretty sure I came out and did finger guns once. And I was like, oh, thank God I didn't do finger guns. I'm okay.
Oh my God.
Oh my, nobody talks about that. You're just like, yeah, yeah, lingerie is so hot. Nobody talks about how do you present the lingerie? Like, unless it's underneath your clothes and like already surprised, which I should have done.
Right.
It was just like a, holy shit, I have to now present myself from around the corner. And so,
that's true.
We're getting into our groove again after like having a baby. So it's been a fun little adventure.
Music helps. Music always helps me. Just put some music on random, like, come up, I put some music. Let's just hang out, go to the bathroom while he's turned around, then come out and wait for him to turn around. And he'll be like, oh shit. And then you kind of dance the music maybe a little bit, touch your body, and then just get on him and then, figure it out.
You know what I like? I like if you can do it quickly, but this is always the thing. Lingerie always has like all those fucking holes and fucking ties.
Yeah, there was like straps.
So it's hard.
It always feels extra, but it's
if they're in the bathroom, if you can slip it on quickly and then just lay on the bed as the gift.
Yeah. See, that would have been a better move. He was on the bed. So I reversed the whole thing. And as for music, the last time we had like music put on, my husband, actually the first time we like consummated our love, I'm going to say, he was like, I want to like set the mood, but the guy's a fucking joker. Like he was the dad joke before the dad joke. And he puts on like this really cheesy fucking jazz music for us to fuck to. And I was like, I hate you so much because nothing about this is, and he was just like, don't you look, this is our song, Sarah. And
you're like in the lounge.
I literally, our whole first time having sex, I was just dying laughing. Like we were giggling because it was so ridiculous, but I kind of love that too. It's not always hot. It's like kind of funny. We joke a lot and that's just kind of our relationship. So it's like one big dad joke essentially.
I love that.
Well, dad jokes can be sexy, and I'm sure you guys will have many more geographical locations to engrave in jewelry.
I'll update. Yeah.
Can you tell our people where they can find you?
Yeah. So if you're a podcast person, you can listen to me on my podcast, the Papaya podcast. But if you're interested in just following along on the daily, Instagram's my wheelhouse. It's where I've been the most, and I'm in Instagram stories a lot. So you can find me at the Birds Papaya on the gram, and then that'll link you everywhere else.
Awesome. We'll make sure to include that in the episode description. You guys know where to find us at goodmoms_bad choices. Make sure you follow our Patreon. We have a lot of bonus content over there. We posted some Valentine's Day hories, some other stuff. Just go check it out. It's patreon.com/goodmomsbadchoices. You guys, please make sure to rate and review this episode. If you've been listening for a while, just take a second, go to Apple, scroll to the bottom. Actually, if you have Spotify, you can also review there as well now. I really would appreciate it. I love you. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.